o'clock, March 23rd, Wednesday, 2022. I call the Oxford Finance Committee meeting to order. The audio visual is being recorded by Mr. King of this meeting, as well as the Oxford cable access. You hear me? Okay. All right, so the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of March 2nd. And if, I know we've all seen them prior to the meeting, but I'll give you everybody a minute just to take a look to make sure there's nothing that's been omitted, or needs to be changed. And if not, then I'll hear a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, aye. 4 in affirmative, 1 absent. 2 absent, two absent. Okay. That being said, we'll entertain a presentation from the Oxford Public Schools for FY23. We have Superintendent Mr. Lucas and Justin, our business manager. And I think they have a presentation, which we all should have.
We do. Thank you for having us. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. Justin and I worked hard with our administrative team to present a budget to you guys. We feel meets the interests and needs of our students in the town of Oxford. This is a draft budget. You should all have a line level budget version copy for yourselves. As the school committee budget hearing is Monday, this is a draft. We don't anticipate any changes at all between now and then. Monday evening, this is what we prepared for the school committee and yourselves. School committee will certify this on Monday night.
Okay.
Meetings were just a little out of order. But tonight we'll talk about staffing, enrollment, some budget trends. We're happy to answer any of your questions you might have. Our slideshow here, you can kind of see an outline of the presentation in your packet and what we're going to do. Are you doing the slides? Or you want us to do the slides?
I got it.
Oh, you got it?
You got it?
Next
Okay.
slide.
Maybe I don't have
Maybe
it.
we don't have it.
Well, I was asking,
Is it an arrow?
arrow
Arrow
down?
down, arrow up?
Oh,
There you go.
Okay, all
Good.
right. Here are guiding principles of our budget. You can see our mission statement and our vision statement. Since the fall, we've received input from stakeholders in our school community, and Justin and I have worked with our administrative team to present a budget that supports all the needs of our students. This supports our district learning recovery and acceleration plan from the pandemic, with a focus academically on reading and math. It also includes additional social, emotional learning, and mental health supports for our students as we come out of this pandemic and transition and get everybody back into normal schooling. Our folks did a great job with our virtual learning, but we know that virtual learning is not the same as in-person learning. Everything in education today emphasizes preparing our students for college and career readiness after high school. We are working at the high school to increase student access and enrollment in AP classes so that they can build stronger transcripts, receive admission to colleges, as well as qualify for more grants and scholarships. In addition, we're also introducing 3 new potential career paths for our students. We are moving 8th grade back to the middle school. This means that OMS will then be grades 5 through 8, and the high school would be your traditional grades 9 through 12. This move will create more space at the high school and allow us to offer some exciting new learning and career exploration opportunities for our high schoolers, which we're excited about. Fire Science 1 is going to be taught by our very own fire chief here in Oxford. He's volunteered to teach that, provide opportunity for students to train to become firefighters, EMTs, and first responders, and hopefully provide the town of Oxford with future firemen and some volunteers for our fire department going forward. So we're very excited about that. Only a handful of schools in the state have that program, so we're really excited to roll that out for our kids. We're also going to have a certified nursing assistant class taught by our lead nurse that will allow students to gain state certification to be licensed to work as a CNA upon turning 18. And we are also going to offer an early education and child care class for our kids at the high school that will certify students to become preschool teachers and daycare providers and enter the workforce. We are very proud that we have BayPath as an option. They have amazing programs for kids, and you'll hear from Mr. Brenner later. We also want our families to have faith and commitment to our high school and keep their children coming here and are attracted to do so instead of choosing charter schools or school choice to other places. So that is our hope. We're continuing to work very hard to provide the best education we can for the kids of Oxford. We are asking for an overall increase of 3% with this budget. Our enrollment increased this past year by 11 students, continues to rise slightly since then. The inherent cost of providing quality education for our students and staffing does increase yearly, but we feel very confident this budget will positively impact our students and our families. So we thank you again for having us, taking the time to listen to us. I'll hand it over to Justin.
All right, thank you. The first slide, just want to kind of bring everybody up to speed with the budget timeline and how this document is created. This is a comprehensive year-long process that involves a wide range of stakeholders. In October, the school committee charges the superintendent with what type of budget they would like him or her to build. In this instance, this is a level services budget. So what that means is the school committee would like to provide the same services next year that we are providing currently. Workshops are held in December. So again, that was in October. Throughout November, we have our principals put together some preliminary budgets of what they're going to need for supplies and staffing. In December, we hold workshops to go through all these things with the school committee and the principals. It takes roughly 3 to 4 budget workshops to get the budget in again, a draft form. In January, the governor's budget is released, normally in January, with state aids and assessments. And at that point, we have discussions with the town manager and folks on the town side regarding the financial health of the town and what our budget's really going to look like. That brings us through January, February. And here we are, the first bullet in March to May, the budget presentation to the Finance Committee. So we are about 3/4 of the way through the process, with the first week of May, town meeting being the final approval. I'm going to move on to staffing. 3/4 of our budget is staff. We're one of the biggest employers in Oxford. With that said, just district-wide staff alone, we have, there's 42 staff members, and district-wide includes psychologists, social workers, speech pathologists, therapists. There's a wide range of positions. So when I say district-wide, it's not necessarily just central office, but it's folks that will go to every building and service the entire district, all 4 of our schools. And please stop me if anyone has any questions as we go through this. This is the building-based staffing. I'll just kind of summarize this quickly. At the high school, we have 70 staff members. At Barton School, let me just go to middle school, 61 staff members at middle school. Barton School's 48 staff members, and Chafee's 51. This past summer, we did shuffle some grades around as part of the learning recovery and acceleration plan that we had put together to drastically reduce class sizes to get students caught up from any learning loss that occurred during the pandemic. So these counts that you see for staff, this also includes grant-funded staff. So this is a combination of general fund and grants. This next slide here is the number of positions that we added last summer through our ESER 2 and ESER 3 grants. Again, this is part of our learning recovery and acceleration plan. We hired 34 staff members. That's broken down to 8 teaching assistants and 26 teachers. And what that allowed us to do was reduce class size to 15 with the goal of really getting kids back to where they needed to be with in school. I did want to highlight this right here because these grants here expire, and they're actually staggered. One expires next year, the other expires the following year. So that means these positions will go away after these grants run out.
Do we have money for unemployment?
That's a great question. We are not currently, but we are working on a plan to address the unemployment. Just a couple. One idea we had was to actually charge the grants for the unemployment cost. The way the plan is currently written, these positions are staggered, where some will be a 1-year position, some will be a 2-year position. So some of these would go away at the end of this year. We have not completely implemented that, as we haven't made those decisions as to who's going to go and who's going to stay. Also, the figure that I have for unemployment, now I plan on worst case scenario. That's everybody goes and they reap the maximum benefit of, I believe, 29 weeks. Right now, there seems to be a teacher shortage. I haven't 100% put my finger on it, but my gut feeling is that many of these folks will get another job soon as they leave. So that the unemployment liability that I estimate right now is probably not going to be as high as what we think.
There may be some retention if there's some retirement within the.
Correct. That's another
Yep.
option. So
Right.
it's not a very, I'll put it this, it's not a very clear-cut separation, employee separation. But again, just to address your question, this can be taken out of one of the grants. Alternatively, we have considered maybe leaving some, if there's money available at the end of the year, and maybe the school committee could sponsor an article appropriating some free cash to address the unemployment. But again, until we get a true handle on who's coming and going, it's kind of hard to make that determination.
It's kind of, I shared that with the town manager on the ARPA funds and stuff, what the impact of that would be with unemployment. We need to have some kind of a reserve, so to speak. Well, she has ARPA money, which I don't know how much of that, or it's kind of restricted, so it's just, you just can't use it, like grants. You can't write a grant for one thing and use it for something
Right.
else. Some people think you can, you can't.
Right.
So, okay,
So we are discussing this, we are fully aware, and we are gonna
Yeah.
address this.
okay, good.
But again, temporary positions, we anticipate most of these will be going away within the next 2 years. Student enrollment. You can see the trend here. Back in 2020, we had 1,574 students. In March of '21, that dropped drastically to 1,452 as a result of the pandemic. We lost 122 students.
We're not alone. I look, not jump ahead, but the Bay Path gave us numbers of other towns.
Yeah.
And huge reduction.
Yeah.
Webster, huge reduction as far as population, as far as.
Happening across the state.
Across the state. It's
Yeah.
A lot of.
So
Yeah.
pandemic.
So
was-
right now, I mean, when you look at what we can educate as far as facilities, and I know we've had this conversation.
Yes.
It's like 3,200 according to what you've shared with us, Justin, and thank you for your forthcoming. So how things are, and of course, the middle school, which was the old high school, is really not configured. It's because it's configured, it has labs and stuff, so it's not the best configurations
Right.
from a capacity standpoint.
Right.
But you're at 1462. I think you gave me a number a couple of weeks ago, 1458. We're like 5, but people come, people go. So
Correct.
it's like chasing a dog chasing his tail.
Right.
But we're at what, 45%, under 50% capacity based on capacity numbers. Now we can use those with your new programs. We can use some of that space for, like you were talking about,
Yes.
the 3 programs. But still, I don't see in the foreseeable future us utilizing that capacity with the population decline as far as children. And it just keeps on eroding by 70, 50 every year. It bounces between 80 to 50. We lose every year, it seems.
Yeah, we had a forecast done again by NESDEC in the fall, and they told us we can probably plan on a drop of anywhere from 30 to 50 a year in Oxford for the next few years.
Yeah.
We're going to have them run that again in about a month.
Yeah.
They do it for us as part of the service for our membership, so we'll do that again and see where it's probably going to land in that same ballpark.
Yeah, every year.
We had 4 more students enroll this week, so we went up again this week. As you said, it fluctuates.
Every day.
Depends on the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Any given day, right.
So it is a moving target. We did go up slightly this year. Again, the pandemic really dropped the enrollment. But at this point in time, with the staffing that I had shown you and the current students we have, our elementary class size averages about 15 right
15
now.
per class.
Correct.
And that's actual teacher to student.
Student ratio.
That's not counting the support staff, the psychological services and all of the other.
Correct. That's,
Exactly.
that's just like the
Coaches,
second
that's
grade
just
teacher with 15 students.
One-on, okay.
Correct. And
Some
that-
schools, they combine it and they
Yeah.
and then you make the numbers come out with as to what they
That's
want.
not,
why-
yeah, that's not considering special ed teachers, instructional assistants, paras, all that stuff, or consultants.
Because I know you've been struggling to get the MCAS scores up. I mean, I
Correct.
know the math was down.
Correct. Correct.
And
we
we
really
funded that a couple of years ago for your new math
Yes,
program.
we really went hard this year after the reading to get back, because reading is also correlated to math.
Right.
And
That
next
was like
year,
47, 45,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
We've got some
Math
work-
was down to 37.
yeah, we got some work to do. So next year, our focus is really going to be math across K through 12. So we're getting there.
And the new math program's working out well.
So far, so good. Some
we
good
spent
signs. Yeah,
A couple $100,000, I think, was.
yeah,
I
We're
can't
going to do
remember.
some tweaking this year. So we're working on it.
All right.
And finally, just to wrap up on this slide here, the class sizes at OMS and the high school are slightly higher. It's about 18 to 20 on average. That's approximate. And those classes, you know, it really, I don't want to say changes, but it differs
on
from
what-
class to class.
And their electives and what.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Correct. But about on average, I'd say 18 to 20.
Okay.
Now, school choice and homeschool students. What I want like to bring to your attention, school choice. This year, we currently have one student that is choiced in. What does that mean budgetarily? It means that the funds are drying up from our school choice fund. For next year's budget, we plan on offsetting the cost of half of a teacher salary, about $42,000. But that's going to eat up the rest of the money that's in that fund. So we have a school choice revolving fund. Any kids that choice in, you get roughly $5,000 per student that goes in the school choice revolving fund. Now that we have one student in, and now those kids that have school choice in, that money's dried up.
I can see how that would be dried up compared to what the actual cost is. I mean, but, you know,
Again, we offset about half of a teacher's salary out of that school choice fund.
I mean, some of the numbers you shared with us not too long ago was huge as far as what the cost is.
What that means for the fiscal '24 budget is that $42,000 would have to come from someplace else, unless something else changes with school choice. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just
State gives us,
presenting the facts. This is what
yeah,
it
the
is.
state gives us what, $7,227 is what you shared with me.
It's $5,000 per student for school choice.
Well, no, I mean, with the actual, when you figure out with their support, when you.
With the
on
Chapter
21,000, yeah, and the chapter,
There's,
yeah, this
there's a lot of factors that go into that, but
Title I and all that other stuff.
yeah, there's a lot that goes into that.
Comes out to $7,200, and we're at 5, when you look at the so-called hidden cost, if you will,
The indirect costs, yes.
the indirect cost. Yes, I could see how that would dry up.
Secondly, homeschool. Homeschool is surprisingly consistent from fiscal '21 to '22. You can see how the pandemic changed homeschool. And in fiscal '20, we had just under 20 kids that were being homeschooled. That jumped to 50 last year.
Yeah, I had 45. I had Kelly Foster at 32, Dudley Charlton at 29, Marionapolis at 26, St. Joseph's at 25, and I had 45 in homeschool. And then I had Bay Path back then at 129, 134. So total without Bay Path was like 157. That's what I had, what you had given me about a year. And again,
It
things
changes.
changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Things change.
But it sounds close
It's still
to
it's
what
still
it
in the
currently is.
ballpark.
It's in the
Most of those
ballpark.
numbers are in the ballpark. Yes.
Yeah. What happens is the state gives us 10 million, and then with that coming out, they take about almost $1 million out. So it nets out that we're left with 9 million. So they give on one hand and take on the other. As the students leave, they take $1 million out. So
That's right on. So for assessments, on the back of the cherry sheet, that has your state aid, on the front side has all your revenues, on the back side has your assessments. It's just under $1 million, I want to say, for
Nine
charter
something.
school assessment and school choice.
yeah. So we're left with 9 million roughly.
Correct.
Yeah. And then it falls on the town to come up with the rest, because I think you shared with us the actual cost with the indirect cost, because the town pays for the health care and all the other indirect
Yes.
costs, which is about 5.5 million.
Correct.
When we look at the budget number, we're looking at the operational budget. We're missing the indirect cost. So that brings it up to about $7,800 per student from the town share. So to get to the 15,000 to educate a student in Oxford, plus some other indirect costs that you alluded to. And it was great to get that information from you. And the only reason I looked at it was if the average town, home in the community is like $282,000, that generates a tax bill of around just under $4,600. So if you subtract $4,600 from $7,800, you got a shortfall. I mean, our residential taxable base on a home, there's a shortfall. And how do you make that up? Well, you make it up from aging empty nesters like myself, or you make it up with the marijuana lottery money and the marijuana money for $330,000, or you make it up on excise tax. Because people say, well, why don't we take some of this money and earmark it over here, put it over here? Well, then you got to make up the shortfall, and then you've got to fund fire, police, town government, and all the other things. So there's a lot of devil in the detail. And I just want people to understand that there is a gap. That's because we don't have Bob Kraft living here with a multi-million-dollar estate, or John Henry. We have modest homes that the levy, from a residential standpoint, when you look at what the state mandates, and you're under a mandate. I mean, there's a certain minimum that you have as a foundation budget that we have to spend for education. It's not like we can rob Paul to pay Peter.
Right.
You have to meet the net school spending
Exactly.
requirement.
Yes.
However, with that enrollment, this spending per pupil, naturally it's going to go up as your costs increase and your enrollment goes down, because you simply take the total amount that you've spent
Spend
and
and
divide it
average
by
it
the number of
with the
students.
students.
It's almost an artificial number.
Yeah.
As that, you just do the math. That's how it is.
Well, if we were to get to 1,000 students in the next 5 years, if we keep eroding and we keep going up, the per
per
spend
pupil
will go.
would go down, assuming your costs stay the same. If you're dividing by a higher number of students, so the
If
the
they
cost
when
would
it goes
look
down, it
lower.
goes up. Right.
Exactly.
Your spend goes up.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we open for school choice?
Not currently.
No.
Not currently.
Are we going to with all the new programs? You could probably attract more kids.
That's something the school committee is going to discuss on Monday night also.
They
Well,
they did open it up for the NRTC at one point.
Right.
And it didn't go anywhere. I mean, I think we had one student out of Auburn, and then they,
Yeah, you can't do that. You have to open it up for
Everybody.
If you open it up for the high school program, you have to open it for everybody to the
Everybody.
high school, not just a unique program.
can't do just.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So, but you can set limits by grades and do some other things, but, so it'll be discussed, so.
All right, next section here, enrollment. This is special education enrollment, and this has notoriously been an area of volatility. Like, it's very hard to predict what we're going to have for special education students. As you can see, the history there, fiscal 19 was 273 at the bottom of the slide. 20 jumped to 284, 21 back down to 265, and currently we're looking at 275. So this is extremely difficult to predict. It seems to be all over the place, and the cost for these types of things are
Well,
normally
they have
higher.
to do assessments, so if you find out that the child may be dyslexic or something, then you after testing, then they get special treatment or special ed. So there may be, you don't know until they've been tested whether or not they qualify for special ed. It's not just people moving in and out of the community, it's doing your assessments, right?
correct.
Yep.
And this figure, 275, that's for the in-school programs. Out of district, it's for all special education students.
Out of district, I imagine, is expensive. So
Very.
Yes.
very
Yes,
expensive.
sorry.
I think, I remember a couple of them were at 293,000, I think one of them was that.
For a residential program, they're living there.
293,000 for one student. Yeah.
Uh,
And now we have to educate up to 18 to 21, right? I think for special ed.
In some circumstances, yes.
Yes. So we
Yes.
provide, so it's not just when you, as a high school graduate or senior.
There's very few, but yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's expensive.
Yep.
Just some of the special education cost categories. I'm going to talk about the transportation. Special ed transportation we've seen a decrease over the years. We used to run our own in-house transportation program. I think we had 25 vans. We since outsourced that in 2018, I want to say. And we've actually seen some significant decreases over the years. You can see in fiscal 21, it was just under 800,000. Last year was 700,000. This year, next year, we're planning on it dropping a little bit more, just by another $10,000. But over time, we've seen a drop in that, the cost for that.
You should, well, let's hope that they don't come back looking for a fuel surcharge.
Yeah.
Because That's probably in the wings already.
Part of our contracts right now, we do not have a fuel escalation or de-escalation clause. So
The size of the buses out there, it's, you know, I know everybody with the pandemic, they wanted to bring their kids to school, even though they said they were taking the bus. They didn't.
Right.
Just on chance that they should run in late, then they throw them on the bus. But if
Right.
otherwise they take them to school, they're at carpool.
Right.
That's why I'm an advocate for charging some kind of a token, if you will, for those that don't qualify. And I understand that over 40% are economically disadvantaged, or close to 40% of our children.
Yes.
So, which makes me think that we are an affordable community to live in. If 40% of the kids who go to school are economically disadvantaged, that means their parents can afford to live here.
Right.
When I look at 40B, but I want to get into that. But anyway, I'm wondering why they haven't come why we don't charge something so that we could downsize some of the buses. I know the bus company bought these huge buses that tear up our roads, that are half empty sometimes, but they didn't buy the smaller buses, so we're stuck with the larger buses that are not being used. I don't know how to get out of
I
that.
believe we have 8 71 passengers and 283 passengers.
I think the last numbers you gave us were like about 100 and something children were taking the bus. That was during the pandemic. I'm assuming
For
that
actual
number.
ridership,
Yes.
that's different than the bus capacity.
Yeah, has that gone up any since, now that we're coming out of the pandemic? There's 100,
Slightly,
you
but
had 10 on a bus.
there's
I
a lot of
think.
parent drop-off.
Yeah.
You had 10 on a bus, is some of the numbers you gave me.
Parent drop-offs become more popular than ever.
I don't know if the school parking
especially-
lot, you know,
Yeah,
that's
especially
your
to middle
nightmare.
school age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Because you had 10 on a bus on some of these routes, 5 on a bus, 6 on a bus.
During the beginning of the, when we first brought the students back in the beginning of the pandemic, I want to say not this past October, but the prior October, ridership was extremely low, extremely low.
So it's come back somewhat.
Yeah, it's come
It's
back
come back
since
some,
then, yeah.
But still, oof. I don't know how to get out of that. I mean, I don't, if I own the buses, what do you do? Allocate them to some other district that needs that size of a bus? How do you downsize?
Yeah,
You know, you bought it, you own it.
yeah.
Anyway.
So just to wrap up on the, trying to predict these special education costs, the out-of-district tuition cost, you can see is, again, very volatile. In fiscal '21, it was 1.8 million for 23 students, and '22 it was just over 2 million for 22 students. And we're looking at next year back to 1.8, but that's for 20 students.
Okay.
So as a percentage of our operating budget, special ed costs have been fairly consistent. Even though the transportation cost and out-of-district costs go up and down, it still remains at 36% of our budget.
Wow.
So even though the budget has increased, sped costs seem to stay pretty consistent as far as a percentage of the budget. So let's see, looking at just over $7 million in sped costs for next year.
Okay.
And circuit breaker and IDEA grant do offset a good chunk of that. That will be picking up just over $1 million between the circuit breaker revolving fund and the federal sped grants. So there's a lot of unknowns for next year. The biggest one is we're currently negotiating 3 collective bargaining agreements, three contracts. So right now, we do not know what those increases are going to be because we're in the middle of negotiations. So that's probably the biggest unknown that we're facing right now. But when we put this together, I did have to build in a placeholder. So that is included in here. There's other assumptions. We're assuming that our budget offsets will remain stable. For example, circuit breaker is the reimbursement we receive for special education costs. We're a year behind on that, meaning any money that we received this year is what we'll use to offset the budget next year.
You're not getting, like, some other districts, they pre-forecast. We always, we're more conservative, and we don't count it until we see it.
So that's $756,000 next year is what we'll be using in a circuit breaker to offset that. And I'm making an assumption of $450,000 out of the IDEA grant. That's the federal entitlement grant to offset these sped costs. Other unknowns, any move-ins or two areas we've seen a large increase. Homeless and foster transportation, that has exploded this year. Last I had checked just a few weeks ago, just in foster transportation alone, we're up over $45,000 we spent in foster
Wow.
transportation.
These are children that are,
Most of the time, you have an agency like DCF, they place the child in, you know, an aunt's house or somebody else's home, yet they still go to Oxford, and we provide the transportation. Homelessness, that's another one where, you know, they might be sleeping on auntie's couch or, you know, some type of situation, but again, we provide the transportation for the students. And it's usually not, you know, they're not able to ride the regular yellow bus because they don't live in town. They've moved someplace else. ELL population has also exploded
yeah,
this
that
year.
went up, what, 25, 23?
It went up considerably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
and
gave me
the-
those numbers, yeah.
These are the type
From
of
7.
unknowns that I'm talking about that we can't predict that if they move in.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's on us to take care of that,
Yeah.
so.
So you had to hire another teacher, right, didn't you? Bring on an EL?
We have a full-time EL, and we have an instructional assistant also planned to support those kids too,
Yes.
so both, yeah.
We had that position posted for a while. We couldn't find any applicants, so we
that's
ended up getting an instructional
Yeah, it's
assistant
hard to
to
find, yeah.
assist.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Just some budget requests and additional things that we have added. The first one's the athletic trainer. Last year, we had funded an athletic trainer through our athletic revolving funds, and athletic revolving fund, we get that revenue through gate receipts and athletic fees to participate. We bring in roughly 15,000, excuse me, between the two funds, 30,000 a year. This year, for fiscal '23, we're gonna move that athletic trainer, the 25,000, this is a part-time person, to the general fund budget, and then utilize our revolving fund for more one-time costs, such as, you know, athletic supplies. So on the sheet here, I have the cost is 25 grand, but the net cost to the general fund is 18,000, because I had moved the actual one-time supply cost to the revolving fund. The ELL curriculum and aid, that's what we were just talking about, was roughly $5,000 for the curriculum. So 22 for the aid is what we're looking at for next year. That is an addition. That is beyond anything. We didn't cut something
Well,
to
you
add
have
that.
to, address, I mean, you're mandated to address it, so, I mean, it's not an option.
We did hire a curriculum director last summer, and some of the things that she's working on, iStation for math and reading assessment, that's a software. And that's 28,000 for next year. Now, that's not an addition. The net of that, it's really 10. We had cut other software that wasn't maybe being utilized. So the net cost is a $10,000 increase.
These are to do assessments so the kids don't fall through the cracks.
Correct.
basically.
Correct.
That's exactly what that's for. Another item is replacement of Chromebooks. I'm gonna say back in 2016, I believe the town had appropriated.
Yeah, we did it in 3 tranches.
Yeah,
We did
600,000.
Yeah, so that we got down to the kindergarten level, I think,
Correct.
yeah. So everybody has a Chromebook.
Timing is everything. That really helped out in the pandemic because it allowed us to give go one-to-one. Every student had a Chromebook.
Right.
So especially during the pandemic when, you know, a lot of kids were at home,
Yeah.
we were able to provide the technology.
Get internet service, yeah.
That also comes with legacy costs. These things go obsolete, the batteries die, we have to replace them. And again, that was 2016, so now we're looking to building in a replacement plan into our budget. Again, the cost for 140 Chromebooks, $35,000. We had cut other hardware, so the net cost is $15,000 to our budget. I just want to make a point of that, but we have to come up with some type of replacement plan for this hardware.
Sure.
And last, for new additions of the electives, and that's the fire science, nursing assistant, and early education that Mr. Lucas had spoke about in the beginning of
I
the
know right
presentation.
now, the fire department has 4 openings for on-call fire department.
Yeah.
They have
Amazing.
1 for full-time and 4 for on-call, right now.
Yeah,
So perhaps this will benefit them for a recruiting
yeah, that's
mechanism
our hope, yeah.
to fill those spots. Some unfunded budget requests. We did have a request for a speech assistant and a district-wide psychologist. Unfortunately, with this budget, we weren't able to do those. At this point in time, maybe when we talk about restructuring some of the grants, maybe we can do that, but at this point in time, we weren't able to fund those 2 positions.
I mean, the first thing you do with these children is you feed them. Second thing you do is you parent them. You have psychology, psychological and social skills. At the end of the day, if you have any time left, you try to teach them.
Yeah.
You've got a burden. I mean, and you know, then
Yeah.
kids like 40%.
They've got to be in the right frame of mind and ready to learn and
Ready,
and feel
you
safe.
started that
Yeah.
Ready to Learn program,
Yeah.
didn't you? Yeah.
So for fiscal '23 level services budget, we're looking for a budget of $19,339,254. That is a 3% increase over this year's budget. And that's our general fund request. I'm sure all of you received this line level budget that goes through in
I did.
very fine detail
Yeah.
of every change to every line.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions, and even after the fact.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Food service.
Yes.
You're up 26. I just went back to you feed them first.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're $130,000 difference between FY22 and FY23. Hopefully, that's going to be enough.
As I'm looking through this now,
Yeah.
food service, it's really a supply and demand. As the kids participate, naturally we need to purchase more food. If they're not buying the food, then we have to buy less. So it's kind of an obvious statement. The big increase is the cost of food, just like your home. Utility. Right now, I have not done a final assessment on utilities, but utilities we're seeing some very large increases in food. Food has gone up substantially. So that's the biggest increase. That's almost $100,000 increase just for food, but that's also contingent upon participation. So if participation drops, well, naturally, we're not going to be spending that much on food.
Well, I can see where it may increase because parents can't afford. So, and if 40% are economically challenged, they're going to basically send them to school to eat.
Right.
'Cause there's nothing at home to eat. So if anything, it's a,
Right now, we have a universal free lunch program. Everybody gets free lunch and breakfast.
Yep.
everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That program may be discontinuing this summer.
Really?
Maybe. We're hopeful that it continues, but what that's going to do is then we expect the participation to drop. Because, I mean, if it's free, kids are going to take advantage of it.
Right.
When it's not free, your participation could drop. So right now, I believe our food service director had built this, assuming everything's going to stay the same for next year.
Okay.
We don't know for sure yet.
Right.
But participation stay is what, she forecasted as. Certainly, we're looking at a $100,000 increase in the cost of food.
And we'd hired a new food services director last summer. She's done a terrific job working with our cafeteria staff to really try to recreate our menus and get the
Make them
kids
more
attracted.
More attractive.
Yeah,
I know, well,
exactly.
you're hamstrung with the kitchen layouts. I know
Yep.
when we walk to schools,
Yeah.
there's some issues there.
There
I don't know if
are.
we're going to correct, you were able to correct any of them,
Yeah.
but
The elementary schools are going to be tough to correct. You remember our walkthrough.
Yeah.
The middle school, we're looking to hopefully have the middle school start fully preparing the food also for the
so
kids.
it's a little more.
Yeah,
it's
so
not
it's fresh,
soggy.
the smell
You don't have
goes through the
soggy
building.
pizza.
Exactly, exactly. So we feel like we've made some progress with that this year.
Oh, good.
Great.
The other thing that caught my eye was your student services up 149,000, almost 150, $867. Student services. You see that?
I'd say the contributing factors to that, first and foremost, staff increases. There's quite a few, we'll call them special education staff, included in that budget category. So that'd be your first reason why it went up.
I mean, I could see the high school going down 197 because you're taking the 8th grade out and putting
Correct.
it in. That's moving the deck chairs.
Correct.
Yep. That's exactly right. So let me just find it here. 100,000 just for teacher increases in the SPED category. That's what we believe it's going to be.
And that's in a SPED category. Okay,
Correct.
special ed. Okay.
And special ed also is inclusive of your instructional assistants. That's going up. We anticipate $50,000 for our contract negotiations on that one. Also, your medical and therapeutic services. That's another $12,000. And again, a lot of this, when I talk about, it's staff. It's really what.
It's people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Meeting student
education.
needs.
It's-
Yeah, staffing.
You got a building and you got people, and that's it.
Psychological services. That's going up another $16,000. Well, what we anticipate.
That's all part of that ready to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So overall,
Yeah.
it's a $149,000 increase. So I think I just nailed
Yeah,
the
you
three
pretty much
areas.
nailed it right
Those
there.
three
That's
categories, yeah.
it, yeah. That's it, well. Now, do you have anything in the, all the departments, you know, we've, departments that have come before us, you know, they got a budget, and I say, you know, you move the deck chairs anywhere you want. You got, you know, if it snows less, then you've got some snow money, but if the fuel's more, you got fuel money. You're gonna have to, within that, you got a bottom line. You're gonna have to live within that bottom line.
Right.
So I can't fault you if I say, well, you said you're gonna spend X number of dollars on on fuel.
Right.
And you spent that plus, but so you cut back on this, and that's, a lot of that next, in FY '23, with inflation and everything, we don't know. That some people say we're having a recession, some people are not.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
So you've got every department head has a bottom line.
Yep.
They have to live within that bottom line.
Yep.
So how they move the deck chairs, that's up to them. They've got to survive.
Right.
And then we do have stabilization money.
Right.
And we do have, and then this committee has a reserve fund of 100,000, but these numbers are astronomical, who knows? But now we're hoping the state, at worst, level funds us, at worst.
Yeah.
They don't cut us. They give us some more money.
So
Have you, my question is, you have any cushions? Are you planning on, I don't want to say a stabilization account, but are you sure that you're going to be able to, with this 3%, move the deck, live within that?
We don't, I wouldn't call them cushions, but I think we have some flexibility
Ability.
to meet our students'
And
needs
then I
our
know
staffing needs,
you're
yeah.
applying for grants all the time.
Yep.
And you're trying, and as we are on our side.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
because it's just, it's daunting, the unknown. I mean, this is not normal,
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And we're looking at 23, and we're worried about getting out of 22.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm trying to get through this year.
That's what I can, yeah.
This is our best guess for next year at this point in time. That's really what this is.
Yeah.
Again, I was just talking about utilities, the increases that we're seeing. I have not reflected those in this budget, just because at the time I didn't know back in December when we're working on this that we're going to see such drastic increases.
And Justin and I meet throughout the year and kind of move,
Yeah.
at times we have to move the deck chairs
You-
around,
right, you're
inform
gonna-
the school committee, make sure it's okay.
Right, everybody's gonna have
We're
to-
going to have, there's some problems you can't anticipate.
Yeah,
And that's
well-
true of every department.
We have three phases, things we want, things we need, and now we're at things we can afford.
Right.
So we've gone from 1 to 2 to 3. Now we're at things we can afford, not just things we need. So it's getting, the unknown is just, it's scary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you got a bottom line, you got to live within that bottom line as best you can.
Just to jump ahead here, so you can see the cost breakdown. Our staff salaries for next year are just under 77%. As you can see, that's the biggest chunk of our budget is staff
Okay,
salaries.
yeah.
The next, second biggest cost is transportation. That's 8% of our budget is transportation cost. Right behind that is the added district tuitions for special education. That's just 4%. So on and so forth. You can see the breakdown.
Transportation is the one thing that really bothers me because, going back to one company bid, now we got 2 bids or 3 bids if we're lucky. And I look at those buses, I mean, there are communities more affluent than us. Take Shrewsbury as one. They charge a token, but they charge something to get people to tell the truth, basically. By chance, I may be running late, so I want to be able to afford myself the opportunity to put my kid on the bus. But 99% of the time, I drop them off or I carpool. But so that space on the bus, you've got a bus that's with an assigned seat that's not being utilized, unless they're running late or something happens unforeseen, and then they stick them on the bus. I mean, there's got to be something there that we could do to. I mean, obviously the people, the 40% that are economically disadvantaged, no, but the other 60%, we've got to. I like to see that money. I'm not looking for the money to come back to us, so to speak. I'd like to see the money put in the classroom. Some of the things that you aren't talking about, it just bothers me. To me, it's a sin.
We don't disagree.
All right.
And lastly, just a 5-year budget history. As you can see, our Chapter 70 state aid has stayed pretty much the same. We're
Yeah.
at hold harmless. What that means is our enrollment is dropping. You're given so much state aid based on your enrollment. Well, they're not gonna give us less money, but they're not gonna give us much more either.
And then they take that away. Like I said, you're not, you're with the out,
Your,
with
your
the kids
charter
that'll leave.
assessments go up,
So the kids that have left district, you're left with 9. You-
correct. The foundation enrollment, as you see on the bottom there, that's what they base the Chapter 78 on, and your foundation budget. That's 1571 that we see for next year. That's also inclusive of charter school students. So if you think about it this way, they look at our foundation enrollment, which is a combination of our kids and the charter school kids. They give you your Chapter 70 funding, and then they take it right back because they know that those charter kids are going out.
Yeah, right. That's what I said. You're not left with 9 million. They give you 10, take $1 million back.
So a lot of times, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think you had touched on this earlier.
Yeah.
That increase is really, the town owns that. Really, if you're not seeing an increase in Chapter 70 funding, then
Yeah, right.
the town's contribution
right.
would be
It
going up.
increases.
Correct.
And then that's why I said, boy, that's why I'm an advocate of us in trying to grow our business. We're at 20% of our levies business. We need, over the next 5 years, it's crucial we get it up to 30%. We need new business, and we need, whether it's marijuana receipts, which I think we got 331,000 with the one. We're looking at doing one on 20 and 56. That's the kind of money we need to offset the shortfall so that we have money left over to fund the police, the fire, the library, town hall, whatever. Otherwise, we start cutting hours. All of a sudden, the library's only open 2 days a week or something like that. Yeah,
Or school choice in.
yeah,
Right,
The more kids you bring in,
yeah.
the less money per person.
Correct.
right.
So at this point, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Answered mine. Anybody on the committee have any questions of Justin or Superintendent Lucas?
No, I don't.
Mark?
No. This line level budget, the draft copy is available on our website. I believe it's on the finance page that you can find a draft copy.
So anybody in the
If anybody would
community
like to take a
can
look at it, I will remind everyone, it is a draft copy. The school committee has not certified this yet. That will be the public hearing next Monday night on the 28th.
And let me reiterate, even though if they look at all the line items, you're gonna have to move deck chairs, you know that.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Bottom line is gonna be the bottom line. If you wanna get into minutia, go right ahead, but it could change tomorrow, depending on, once you get that utility bill.
Right.
You're gonna be seeing what you're gonna cut to pay
Right.
that utility bill.
Right.
Correct.
All right, well, and I want to compliment you, both of you, on being so forthright with all, as I ask questions, or other people ask questions, that
Yeah.
you guys are very transparent as far as answering our questions and getting stuff, so that
Thank you.
we're not seeing this for the first time.
Yeah.
We have a better understanding of what your needs are and why you need what you need
Perfect,
and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, if anybody has
You're welcome.
questions after
Yeah.
the fact,
Yeah, please feel free to email us
Call,
or- yeah.
email, we'll be more than happy.
Happy to have a conversation.
Been great.
Okay.
Nice
Thank
job.
you again.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go back to our cable access. All right. Haley, all right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm ready.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I was hired in December. I'm the new media production coordinator for the town. I have my bachelor's in digital media production, and I served as a production assistant in Uxbridge Community Television for 5 years, where I kind of got to learn the role of the cable access department and how to cover meetings and town events and sports and that kind of thing. So, and I also have experience in multimedia design. And like I said, I started here in Oxford in December of 21. So the mission of Oxford Cable Access is to entertain and inform the community through local public education and government programming, and provide access to media production for residents and employees. The media production coordinator, myself, oversees the PEG programming and production for the town of Oxford, creates the schedule for playback, maintains the electronic bulletin board, and works with town departments to enhance their media and design needs. I also control the sign out front of Town Hall as well and add messages to that board. So some accomplishments from FY22. The appropriated funds at town meeting were used to install HD cameras and recording units here in this town hall meeting room. The previous production coordinator worked with the town departments to modernize documents, graphics, and presentations. And appropriated funds at town meeting were also used to install a new playback system. That means we have a new bulletin board system, so we have a more sophisticated system that can handle better graphics, can be controlled remotely, and we can schedule playback through that system as well. So we can create the schedule for all 3 channels, decide, what gets aired, and control it through that system that way. We also did some town event coverage since I have started. I covered the Winter Festival and the El Patron Corona grand opening ceremony. So I'm trying to kind of improve the programming and bring more town events for the public to enjoy. So I've been uploading those on YouTube and playing them on cable as well. And we're looking to expand that programming for the town. We're also planning in the next few months to install speakers in this town hall meeting room so that your microphones will now be amplified in the room so the audience can hear what you're saying as well as the people who are watching at home.
Now, you say resume live meetings, so now this meeting tonight,
Correct. Is
anybody, any of our houses can be watching us
Correct.
live.
If
Okay.
you have cable, it is broadcasted live on the government channel
Otherwise, and then it's repeated
on YouTube.
on YouTube. And it's also repeated during the day, or the ensuing days.
So throughout the week, I schedule the previous week's meetings
Meetings.
to rerun. So you can see them there as well.
You talked about events, and I was just came to mind, the Winter Festival in El Patron, I saw them on cable. I was wondering, have you talked to the school department, and they just left, but about any of their sports activities or sports events, is that ever entered, I know that's a little ambitious going forward, but televising their basketball or football events?
So
or-
I think at their last school committee meeting, and I'm sure they can speak to this better than me, I believe that they were signing up to have a program. I think it's, I may have the abbreviation wrong, NHBS or something like that, where it's a company that will come to the school, install cameras in their gymnasium as well as on the fields outside. And it's a subscription-based service that the parents can purchase in order to watch from those cameras. So for instance, if you were a parent who has a child that has a baseball game, but you're not able to attend, you would pay a subscription to watch live from those cameras when
So
those
this is a
events are
fee,
happening.
I was thinking more of a free, where we would cover, or
Yeah.
somebody with,
agree
either
with
you or
you.
somebody within the community would cover the,
I think definitely in the future, when I can bring my staff on and I can talk about this with the next fiscal year's budget, but when I can bring my staff on to cover more events, I think that's definitely something I would be interested in having, partnering with the school.
yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So moving on, the changes this year, as I mentioned, we have 2 per diem videographers that are covering town meetings, events, and I'd like to bring them on as more of a part-time role when that allows. And professional services, we're.
And on need basis, basically, like
Correct.
this evening, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Professional services, we're requesting 10,000. That's for the installation of equipment, any troubleshooting that needs to be done. For instance, if equipment fails or something needs to be fixed or rewired, in that case, supplies and MISC. That's 4,000, so that would be furniture, my plan for the next fiscal year is to start building the studio. So as it stands right now, the studio is not a functioning studio. Unfortunately, we were not left with much equipment. So I'm looking to start the process of building a functioning studio. You know, the walls are there, there's a lighting grid in the ceiling, but there are no cameras, there are no lights, there is no furniture if anybody were to come in and, you know, do a talking head piece. There really is nothing in that facility as it stands right now. So that's the reason for the equipment budget as it is. I'd like to start building upon that. and make it a facility that can be used.
Okay.
Do you
How
have
much,
any questions?
what funds do, now, where are we at with Spectrum Charter on our, they pretty much provide us the funds to operate this?
Correct, so,
Your department.
the department's funding comes from,
What was it last year or this year? What is it now?
I believe Katie can give you the exact number, but, in conversation with Katie, we were expecting about 160,000, and I requested 150 in order to put 10,000 in reserve.
So, okay, so I understand this, so 160, and there'd be 10 left over,
Correct,
and you have 45 to build the studio.
yes, to start.
So if that goes away, say 45, now you have a studio.
And most of the studio purchases would be one-time purchases.
That's where I'm getting to.
Yeah.
So this year, FY '23, you've got 10 of the 160. Assuming 160 stays the same, and it's all based on the subscribers in the community for charter.
Correct.
How many people have charter versus don't. That would be 55,000, 45 and 10 this year, next year. So we'd have a residual. I don't know how that works. I mean, the money has to go to this department. Am I right, Katie? I mean, we don't use it for some other purposes.
This is a special revenue fund,
So,
and with an IGR that the state had put out a couple of years back, we had a couple choices, and we accepted the statute at town meeting to keep this as a special revenue fund. We could have made it an enterprise fund, but it seems most appropriate as special revenue. One difference in that is, one difference in how a lot of communities have been doing it, because a lot of communities have been holding this in a special revenue fund, but there was no statute to do that. So where I last worked in Millbury, we had like $700,000 saved up because the person was trying to save money to build his own studio, his own building for a studio.
you mean build a structure, a building,
Correct.
a whole building?
But we had no authority to hold that kind of money, so the state put out this IGR and gave us that ability. So we accepted the statute with a special revenue fund. The one thing that we have to do in that now, though, is we have to make this appropriation. So this is just an appropriation at town meeting, which authorizes us to spend. And then anything we don't spend, it doesn't go to free cash, it stays in its fund and then
Stays
carries
there.
over.
Doesn't go to free cash.
Right, and all the money that we receive from charter stays in this fund and is subject to appropriation in the next fiscal year.
Right, but I can see, I know we're talking FY '23, but if this is a one-time cost for equipment, that fund's going forward, FY '24, FY '25, assuming 160 stays pretty constant, we would, I don't say 700,000, but we would have a large
Right.
amount of money that's earmarked for this particular activity that's not part of free cash.
Right, it stays in its own fund, and,
Okay.
and you can appropriate it for a particular, item or capital item.
Well,
or
that goes back to what I just thought. My thought was you hire people at some point to video the sports
Yeah,
games.
I mean, the hope is that we could bring one of them or both of them on as a part-time role rather than
So-
per diem.
As we move forward, and that 45 one-time spent, and we're at 55 in FY '24, you could bring some people on, and it has to stay in that fund, to work with the school, to do activities and do stuff that we could then have on our cable access under the school, because we have another channel, the school department. And we could do sports, we could televise the basketball, football, whatever the games are going forward, and the fund would have the money to hire the staff to do that.
Yeah.
That's my thought process.
No, that was my thought as well. And then my other thought for building up that reserve is there most likely will come a point where we do not have as many cable subscribers as we do now.
Yeah, everybody's streaming.
So yeah, I was gonna ask, do you get charged if you have internet or only if you have the TV
So
service?
there is an organization called Mks Access, and they are advocates for PEG access stations. They are trying to pass a bill that will allow them to also collect a fee from online streaming services. So there are plans in place to try.
This is nationwide.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
not local, this is nation.
it is Mass Access, so they're based in Massachusetts, but this is something that every PEG access station is dealing with because the future generation is not subscribing to cable anymore. Everything is online, so we really have to think of you know, our plan for the future in terms of funding, because it may dry up. We don't know.
Okay, well, that's why I said this, 160, so you've set aside 10 in the eventuality we see an erosion. But if we don't, then that one-time 45, that would be, then
Correct.
we'd be at 55, and then we could start entertaining, depending on how the wind
Yeah, we can keep
shifts.
adding depending on our equipment needs for the year, and if we have larger projects, maybe we pull a little bit from that reserve as
You
well.
have a studio, you could probably do some interviews and stuff with department heads and stuff like that. What are they working on? What are they doing with the bridge or a road or whatever the bit, you know, there's a lot of things you could do.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Kaylee, Mark, John, Amy?
I'm all set.
And then just one more slide, sorry.
All right, go ahead.
My goals for FY23 are, you know, build up our equipment inventory. As I said, we weren't left with much. So when I started in December, I took an inventory of what we had and what we were capable of providing in terms of programming and services. And I'm looking to purchase the bare necessities to continue to do those services, as well as expand programming, like I said. And this year I've explored the option of offering online streaming in addition to streaming live on cable. So for those of you who do not have cable, you would be able to view these meetings live online as well. It would
On
be
YouTube or?
Nope, it would be our own website,
Oh, okay.
and we would post that link on the town website, and that would bring you right to the live stream online. So
Working towards, right,
correct, that has been ordered. So I'm just waiting for the equipment to come in.
probably on the ship out in California.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
Where is your studio? Is
I
it
was
here
just
in
gonna ask, is that
Community
in this
center.
building?
Community Center?
Yes. And then as well, in addition to online streaming, this is a future project, but we would have a separate website for the video archive. So in place of YouTube, we would have our own website that would be in line with the online streaming, put it all in one place just to make it look nicer.
So if you wanted to see something that last May,
Mm-hmm.
you could go back and
Yes.
find it.
Yep. And then, like I said, begin starting to furnish the studio. And as you can see, that's our studio as it stands. Pretty bare bones. So just looking to furnish it and turn it into something usable for the community and for town staff. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Very good.
Great.
Okay. Well, it was nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Welcome aboard.
I had met you, so see you again. All right. Council on Aging, Laura.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, arrows, is that what they say? There we go, okay. So, I am a staff of 6. I am the only full-time employee. I have one other person that works 3 days a week in the office doing outreach. So when the days she's not there, I'm doing outreach as well. And then I have a culinary supervisor, which if you, later on, I have pictures of a couple of our meals, and we'll talk about our meals that we offer. And I have one part-time driver that drives the Oxford Town van to shuffle people around anywhere in town. And then we have 2 part-time WRTA drivers who take people out of town to go to medical appointments. So that's what we have for a staff. Our transportation, like I said, we have WRTA. Last year, we had 2,385 rides, and the WRTA has suspended all fare collection until the end of this year, and then they're gonna revisit it to see if they're gonna start collecting again. But right now, they don't charge people for any transportation costs.
End of our fiscal year.
No, end of December 2022.
Okay, so it's
Calendar year.
beyond.
Calendar year.
Calendar.
Yep, calendar year is how they've done it right now.
Okay.
We do get money back from the WRTA to help offset our costs for the driver. So this year, we got $20,000. So on our budget, the bottom line,
I saw that.
it was, it's $20,757. We get money back from them to help offset some of the costing of the And that's based on population, senior population in town, so if we
Which
get
is
more.
growing.
Which is, it is growing.
One out of 4 are over 65.
Yeah. So, and then our Oxford Town Van, last year we did 2,079 rides. We do have a small fee for going to like the grocery store, hairdressers, banks, anything like that. It's a $3.50 round trip. Any transportation to a town building, whether they're coming to town hall, senior center, OCC, library, there's no charge. So, and unfortunately, that's the majority of our transportation is going to the senior center or OCC for classes and that. So, the majority of our transportation is not charged. Activities, you can see we're pretty busy. I like to keep them hopping over there. And we have activities, we have something going every day. We were able to get some special entertainment in last year, but those were all done through the grants, through the Cultural Council awarded grants for most of the special entertainment. We're able to get 2 bus trips in, which we do through Fox Tours. That's something they pay for. It's just that we're like the host of it, I guess you could say. And we have 4 on the slot for schedule for this year, planning on 4 bus trips this year. We do have some special presentations that have happened the last few years. We have the fire department comes in once a month and does they call it senior safe education. They'll come in and talk about whether it be smoke alarms, or they'll even show them some equipment. They're going to start rotating some staff in, so the people get used to seeing the staff. So if they show up at their house for a call, it's a little bit more familiar to them.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 calls are EMT calls.
Yes, exactly. So they're going to rotate people through so the seniors can get used to seeing the staff there. The sheriff's departments had come in, did a presentation for us, and they have a sign numbering house program. House numbering sign program going on that the inmates make free signs, and you can get a number put so you can post it on your house. I had a cannabis company come in out of Southbridge last year and do a presentation. Again, that's the way of the world. A lot of people are going towards it. So,
Not chemo. You're old.
yeah, there's a
You want
so.
to eat and keep it down. That's.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have our Cup of Joe with Joe. Joe is Joe McKenna, the state rep. He comes in every few months and has like a office hours, open house for the seniors and stuff if they want to come in and talk about something, anything. I did have this last month. He helped a senior. It was one of those massmoney.com, findmymoney.com. He had money for his mother who wasn't able to get it. Couldn't get anybody on the phone. Joe McKenna was able to make some phone calls and actually was able to help him get the money. So it's paid off. It's paid off having him come in. Not that we're paying for it, but it's showed results. So as far as outreach, my outreach coordinator that I have, Cindy, she, like I said, she's 3 days a week. Between her and I, we kind of touch upon a lot of things, whether it be health insurance, fuel assistance, food stamps. I tell everybody to apply for everything you can. And it's amazing. I've had a lot of people I'm never going to get approved. And they've gotten approved. So we help. I had a lady in last week. I went online, based over the age of 70. You can get out of jury duty. So I helped her. She didn't have a computer. Helped her do her disqualification to get out of jury duty. So there's a lot of things that we do. We send out a monthly newsletter. Some of you might receive it. Not many of you. Maybe you're not old enough. But
I receive it.
John gets it.
Get it.
John gets it. So we send out. Not all of them are sent
I
because
got a birthday card. Thank
That's
you very
right.
much.
You're welcome. We send out monthly birthday cards to our seniors. When I first started over at the senior center, we were in the high of the pandemic, and I'm like, what can we do for the seniors to brighten their day? I said, everybody loves to get mail, not necessarily a bill, but why not a birthday card? So we send a birthday card to the seniors from the senior center.
Who didn't send me one.
Pretty bad the senior center just sent you one, right?
Let them know that too.
In our monthly newsletter, we do that in-house. Not all of them are mailed. We do hand out a lot when people come in and stuff like that, but we print over 900 newsletters a month that get distributed. So that's pretty much, well, like I said, there's a
Well, I
bunch
know
of
you,
things.
I was, happened to be there, when you did the fuel assistance, and there was hundreds of, almost 100 people.
Yeah.
That were rotating to get fuel
Rotating
assistance.
through, yeah.
And I know personally you've helped people sign up for Medicare. Mm-hmm. Because the gentleman that was doing some work for me, Jeff,
Yep,
he and his wife are pulling their hair out trying to figure out, and it's daunting, some of these things you get online, if you're elderly and you're not very computer savvy, you go through a maze and you come up empty and you spend an hour and a half and you're frustrated.
right. And we have a lot of seniors that are not computer savvy.
Right.
Some towns, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people did a lot of stuff on Zoom. We polled our seniors, no interest at all. They weren't interested in doing Zoom stuff. So we're not a senior tech community, I guess we'll call it. So, our lunches, we offer lunches 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. We have an awesome, I guess we'll call her a chef, even though her title's culinary supervisor. Debbie, yep. Last year, calendar year, we served 4,451 meals. That is for takeout and dine-in. We have shut down a few times due to pandemic things and stuff, snow and stuff like that. But for the most part, that's what we've done. We also offer the meals to town employees, which I haven't sent out the menu in a couple months, but the town employees are eligible to get it. They pay $7 a meal. So it helps us get a little bit more. Last year, our cost to purchase food was just over $21,000. And as we know, the price of food has gone up. Last year was up over 3.5%. This year, 2022, they're talking another 2 to 3%. So the fuel costs are going up. We're only bringing in about $12,000 based on our pricing for food to offset, towards the food costs. So that's, yeah.
Well, I know you went up, it was $4 for both dine-in and takeout.
Right.
Because
You get yours to
I'm over there
go.
every Tuesday and Friday picking up. I gotta stop taking those desserts, though.
Yeah, we did go up to $5 on takeout just to offset the cost of the containers and that we have to do. We may have to look at going up again. We're not sure yet.
I'm
We'll-
worried about food, well, you heard me with the school committee, I'm worried about food costs.
Absolutely.
And fuel cost, $1.75 one way, and then, of course, we're not charging. But, you look at, with healthcare, what they're paying in healthcare, I mean, I know what I pay on Medicare, so it's $7,000 for my wife and I. I mean, and then you pay your real estate taxes, and then if you have a small pension and Social Security, you're left with maybe $18,000 at most to maintain your house and your car, heat your home, buy your food for the year. Man, that's
it's
scary.
It is very scary. So that's like I say, our food. If you ever want to try a meal, feel free to pop over and we'll feed you.
Food's good.
Food is very good.
attest to that. But now,
Coming up
looking at your budget, I didn't see Cindy on here, Assistant Director.
Cindy is considered outreach.
So she's off your budget now.
She's the outreach coordinator. She's on my 5th line down.
I've got the budget here.
Yep. The fifth line down, it says outreach worker.
Yeah, we don't have.
Outreach worker, so she's 17, so your assistant went away.
We've never had an assistant over there.
It says actual was 25 back in FY '21.
Oh, because I started as an assistant director over there.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
And then we budgeted, okay, in FY, okay, we had a budget of 40, okay. And then the administrator full-time,
Yeah,
16,000.
I had asked for part-time administrative assistant to help out especially on the days that I'm alone over there. It's insane. So we're gonna try to pay for some of that, possibly out of the formula grant. We get a formula grant every year. Last year, and again, come for this year, we're gonna have $28,932 for a formula grant, which is used to help purchase foods, programs. We can even pay salaries with it, and we can pay, to do some programs. Programs
So
as
you get
well.
about a little under $30,000.
But that doesn't go far.
Well, no, but is that the only grant that we're eligible?
Yes.
And so it's the formula grant, okay. And that's not part of this budget, but that augments,
Correct, and that's also based on the senior population. as well. They pay so much
So
per senior.
hopefully, we won't have to go up and, with some of that grant money, some of these things that I could see that we would have to go up, but maybe we can sustain that, because I don't see how they can afford.
Right.
We need to increase it, but.
They can't
one
afford it.
side- But they can't afford it,
Right.
which is where our whole community's a lot like that. We need things, but we can't afford things, you know? Things we need, things we want, things we need, and now it's down back to
Correct.
what we can afford.
Correct. And the only other items that are fairly new to or increases to the budget are programs and workshops I put in, so maybe we can get a few more programs for the seniors, have some entertainment, something that we can't get covered under a grant and that. And then also education and dues, I need to get Serve Safe certified. As far as, just so I have a handle on things and stuff over there, and it's that, so that's a cost there. And I have a couple recertifications too of people that need to be Serve Safe certified, recertified. Oh my gosh, say that again, huh?
We're over there, I mean, I know we do blood pressure clinics and stuff, and I was talking about, I was wondering, do we have, I don't know what they call it now, if you have a heart attack, they have
The AED?
that's it.
Yes, we have an AED over there. We did purchase that last year.
Yeah, that's what, yeah,
All my staff
know how to use it.
is CPR trained and AED trained,
Okay.
myself included. And we are actually being recertified through the fire department. This coming Friday, all the staff but myself are being recertified.
Good.
And I will be done next Friday, the following, April
Good.
Fool's Day.
Because
Yeah.
when I'm over there, those thoughts go through my head sometimes when I see people miss a chair sitting down or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, we had the ambulance there quite a bit, but we've kind of narrowed down some.
Yeah, yeah, so you're all trained and you're gonna be recertified.
Yes, we're all gonna be recertified, yep.
Good.
That's pretty much about it. We're pretty simple and easy over there. I do have some great volunteers. Two of
you
them
do.
actually are in the audience tonight.
Yes, you do.
Bob, who's part of, everybody thinks it's the chef's husband, because he's in the kitchen. He's the only one. So is that your husband? Is that her husband? Oh, her husband. It's not her husband, but Bob is on the Council on Aging board, and he's a great volunteer. And then I have Jody Williams, who's also on the board, and she's there almost every day doing something for us. So I have dedicated volunteers that help us do a lot. So, and I will be getting a senior tax write-off.
Yeah, that worked out really well, didn't it?
Yeah, so I'll be getting somebody for that too, so that's gonna be good.
Yeah. I was
So
glad to
that's
see
pretty
that.
much us in a nutshell.
We're-
As I say, we're in the backyard and we like it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Laura?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you Friday.
Yes, you will.
All right, we're up with the Bay Path presentation. Green and
Kyle Brenner.
right.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Brenner, Superintendent of Bay Path, and Irene Hool, our Business Manager at Bay Path.
Replacing Dean, who you're probably used to seeing, wondering where he is. He retired, here I am.
Excellent. So thank you for letting us come in and present our FY23 proposed budget. The first slide shows that the funding is from House 1, Chapter 70 and 71 estimates are from Governor Baker's proposed state budget for the coming fiscal year. Proposed Chapter 70 funding for FY23 is $12,893,681, which is a $1,307,141 increase over current funding. And our proposed Chapter 71 funding for FY23 is $809,158, which is $243,339 decrease from current funding. Again, these are preliminary estimates, and they're subject to change as the budget moves through the House and the Senate. Next slide shows the impact on Bay Path. So you see a comparison of our Chapter 70 FY23 over FY22, as well as the minimum contribution and the required net school spending. Our Chapter 70 has increased by just over $1.3 million. Our minimum contribution has gone up $144,409, and the required net school spending overall has increased by just over $1.4 million. So just a little bit about what you're seeing here. Our FY23 total budget for assessment is $25,899,604. It's important to note that our member town assessments are at the minimum. Our budget includes a debt service assessment of just over $1.5 million, and our operational budget does not require funds above the minimum contributions by our member communities. And our total member assessments projected for FY23 are $12,090,417. So although the assessments are at the minimum, it's important to note that the minimum contribution levels for each town, the levels that each town must contribute, have increased collectively by $144,409. Our member town's transportation assessment has been reduced by $234,995, which is a reflection of the use from our regional transportation reimbursement account that we set up a couple of years ago. Yep. So some financial highlights. Again, total Chapter 70 revenue is $12,893,681, and our school choice assessment for FY23 is $178,647.
We got somebody coming out of the member district.
So that's we pay for those school choice into Tantascwa primarily.
Yep.
Primarily, right. Chapter 71 busing aid is $809,158. Our sewer betterment fee, this is the last year of that sewer betterment fee, so after FY23, we won't have that going forward, but that's $30,750. And again, we propose to use $50,000 from our E&D to cover our OPEB liability. And the next slide shows just the overall budget summary. At the top, you see the Chapter 70 of just over 12.8 or $12.9 million, school choice assessment of $178,000 and change. Our minimum contribution assessment is $9,976,240. No assessment above the minimum, and our OPEB transfer from E&D is $50,000 for a total operation budget there of $741,274. Our transportation budget for FY23 total is estimated at $1,565,827. You see our transportation reimbursement fund. We're contributing $234,995. That leaves an assessment of $521,674 after the Chapter 71 total of $809,158. A debt service building for the building project, our principal is $775,000. Our interest is $786,753 for a total of just over $1.5 million there. And you see the sewer betterment fee there for a FY23 budget for assessment of $25,899,604. Add to that the school choice, and that brings the overall total operating budget and school choice to $26,078,251. So, budget highlights. So for textbooks, supplies, and equipment, we'll have new textbooks for our social studies. This is year 2 of a 2-year plan to replace all our social studies textbooks. We'll also upgrade our science, and 12 of our shop programs will have new textbooks, and we have some money in there for necessary replacements as needed on that. Supply and equipment accounts have adequately been funded to account for inflation. As just about everybody before us has talked, how everything's going up. The cost of all our carpentry, our welding rods, our sheet metal, anything. Food costs has increased, so we've allowed for closer, the budget's capped at 4.5% inflation rate. We've allowed for our supplies and equipment for each shop to go to
the culinary
6.
program?
We are, yeah. So we just opened our restaurant again.
Did
so-
you really?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, I'll be
Yep.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on down.
I was
And,
wondering when that was gonna open up again.
and
How
our
about your
cosmetology just opened
the
up.
cosmetology as well,
Yes, yeah. So we're getting back to normal.
whatever
The
normal
new
is.
normal,
whatever.
right?
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. So we maintain culinary on the curbside pickup, and the revenues were actually higher than
Oh, yeah.
straight out operating the restaurant. So
Because he
there's
can
still
do
gonna-
more meals takeout,
Right.
because you're not
You don't have the
limited by
table
space in the
service.
dining room.
Right. So,
Really?
We were pushing a phenomenal amount of food out, we still are.
Really?
yeah. So
Yeah.
we're gonna maintain both curbside and our restaurant, and see how we can operate like that. So,
Great.
yeah.
As our culinary instructor said, the kids are learning what it means to be slammed in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know,
But we're happy to open up the restaurant again because they were missing all of last year and 3/4 of this year, the table service portion of the competencies that they learned. So,
I just wonder, you know, from an avocation or a vocational standpoint, with all these restaurants closing, there's skills out there, if they're gonna be you know, you wonder if there's a light at the end of that tunnel for them to find work
oh, there's still
in the
a,
restaurant industry.
yes, there's still a big demand for them. There's help on its side.
But a lot of these, what are the pop-up kitchens and stuff, there's a lot of that going on now.
True.
And, yeah, where they can't afford a brick and mortar,
Right.
but
Yep.
they pop up, they have these
Yeah,
pop-up
the new
kitchens or
pop-ups,
food
yeah.
trucks, so, yeah.
And they'll now be well versed and able to do that, because that's what they've been doing for the last year and a half.
Yeah, that's good.
And several large equipment upgrades for our advanced manufacturing, auto body, auto tech, computer-aided design and drafting, our graphics department, metal fabrication, and our programming and web development program as well. In terms of staffing, we propose to add a full-time equivalent adjustment counselor. We've seen a large spike in social emotional referrals for our students. We're currently at 1 school adjustment counselor, so that's a 1 to 1,200 student ratio. Pretty large load, so the addition will cut that in half on a school adjustment counselor.
COVID's had an impact on a lot of that.
A lot, yes. Yep. We opened a brand-new program, Veterinary Science. It's a collaboration with the Second Chance Animal Services in Southbridge. We have a full-time veterinary science teacher there, and we're looking to add another full-time equivalent to that to grow the program to its full capacity as well.
That's a big thing today, veterinary, because everybody seems to have 2 or 3 dogs, or 2 or 3 of this. or
Huge
2
demand for
Yeah.
vet techs, all across the whole spectrum, and
Bless you.
and full doctors of veterinary medicine as well. So, yeah. And we were down to 1 teacher in our electronics shop due to a decrease in enrollment. Our exploratory this year, we have significant increase in students interested in that, so we hope to bring that back to its full shop capacity with the addition of a electronic shop teacher as well. The budget also includes wage increases for union and non-union employees, and our health insurance, we're happy to say, rates had no increase this year, but we do allow for a budget increase for new enrollees, the new additions here, as well as we see every year spouses being added to that as well. Next slide. Student support. So I talked about the significant increase in social emotional referrals. So our Student Opportunity Act, a lot of our funding was going towards that, to provide the supports in place for social emotional outreach as well as professional development for our staff.
Like I said, you feed them, and then you parent them, and then you teach them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to continue to offer and increase our offerings for MCAS preparation and remediation.
How are the Mks tests? Are they,
We've been doing well. So we didn't see the traditional dip that a lot of public schools saw last year with the pandemic. We were able to operate and provide the supports in place, so we stayed level on that. And we just had our ELA MCAS the last 2 days, and we have a makeup day scheduled for Friday on that. So, yeah. So we're addressing our highest need students with those preparation and remediation courses. And then we increase our offerings to help students that are struggling in class. So even remaining open full hybrid all last year. We did see some academic regression, so we're continuing the supports in place, bridge the gap programs that help with homework and make-up work that needs to be done over the holidays and the vacation, school vacations, as well as a couple of days a week. So the next slide shows the 2023 freshman seat allocation. So per our district agreements with our 10-member communities, it's based off the capital population for each one and the percentage that each town. So Oxford is highlighted there with capital population of 1,829 school-age children. So that's equates to a 10.34 ratio of our total 10-town capital population, which equates to 34 seats for next year.
Now, a question on that. If, say, Auburn only has 40 people looking to, and they have 51 seats, do you,
So after April,
after the first go-around, then you have a second go-around? So
absolutely, absolutely. So after April, that's the deadline that's in the charter, or the school admissions policies. If those seats aren't taken, they're reallocated based on these percentages across all the 10 towns. So any seats, whether it's Auburn
you use
or
the
Rutland.
10% based on what's there in the pool
Absolutely.
that's left over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So the next slide shows the foundation enrollment, which is the total number of students that we are financially responsible for. And as you said earlier, FY '23 for Oxford is 141 students total across all 4 grades. And we stay pretty solid on our enrollment because we do have the wait list. So we're at capacity of 1,200 students. So an increase of 1 student projected for next year. And you can see over FY '22, that's an additional 7 students from the town of Oxford.
Mhm.
So that's just almost a 5% increase. So this is a total foundation enrollment. So all students, you can see for Oxford, it's 1,571 students that the town is financially responsible for. Of that, 141 attend Bay Path. And that is again, 7 student increase over FY '22. And this slide just shows the required local contributions projected for FY '23. This is right off the state's website. Current year required contribution is just over $11.3 million. The municipal growth factor is 4.01% for Oxford, and the FY '23 preliminary required local contribution is just over $11.8 million. Added increment local contribution is $113,710 for a total FY '23 of just over $11.9 million. So the second portion of that shows the foundation budget apportionment for the town of Oxford, or the total is $23,711,602. Bay Path accounts for 11.32% of that at $2,684,978.
So what is the line item, added increment, local contribution, what is it?
I ready to address that one.
That is something that the state is assessing the town. They're trying to get all of the towns to a certain percentage of the school budget that they pay. If traditionally you've been paying below that percentage, if your socioeconomic condition allows, they're adding an increment to what would otherwise be your minimum contribution to start getting you towards that percentage they would like to see you paying.
Regardless of your levy capacity, which I touched on before. If your homes aren't of high enough value, your levy capacity is deficient, but they're requiring you to pay it, then you have a shortfall like we do with the Oxford school systems, because your home's only assessed at X number of dollars. So you look at aging population like myself that don't have children going to school, or you look at other funds, whether it's personal property tax, excise tax, lottery receipts, because you have to fill the shortfall, or IPGs. And obviously, that's why I said we need to grow that 20% levy base a business to a 30% because the state keeps on pushing
Yep.
minimum. They keep on raising a minimum, and our homes aren't being reevaluated at that pace. So we're out of sync as far as what the home is worth. If you took a $370,000 or $60,000 home, you would generate about $5,800. Well, you got $7,800 that you owe, so you're $2,000 short if you have one child. Now, if you have two child, you're just a little under $10,000 short. So you need the IPGs, you need the excise tax, you need the personal property tax, and you need aging seniors like myself to contribute. Otherwise, there's no money left for fire or police.
We both missed that, okay.
Pretty much, so that's, so,
So the next slide shows the, and that's what I was just picking up on.
Yep.
So the 17 million is incorrect, that, we do 10 of these.
Yeah,
So
that
we-
number
we
should
missed
be
that.
11,940,736.
I have it down here, FY '23 at the bottom, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
What,
up
what
top,
happened was,
we-
that was, yeah, that was from a
17.
different town, didn't get changed. My apologies, I'm the one responsible for
So
that.
that's 11.9 total, but this again just shows the, down below it's correct with $11.9 million, and the change is 569,689 over FY '22, and again, we just show the percentage that Bay Path, accounts for that as 11.32% FY '23, and that's a slight decrease, 0.03% decrease over FY '22. And this slide just shows the school attending children report, and we do it historically. Dean had put this in a couple of years ago, and the towns found it useful on that. So you can see what the school age children, this is all children, whether they're going to parochial, private, charter schools.
I saw that, they go down here to Webster's, 248 to less.
In 1 year.
Yeah. And you go to Dudley, it's 173, and we're at 71.
Decrease on
It's,
that.
total is 539 in the member communities at 10.
10
Yeah.
towns, there's
10
a
towns.
reduction of 539 school-age children, so it has an impact,
Yeah.
big
Well,
impact.
you have a facility that's not at capacity, that you have to heat and light it, so you're not getting total return on investment, if you will. That's where people always talk about, and we did regionalize, that's why there's Bay Path. That's why people start talking about regionalizing their schools, because we have buildings and we don't have utilization. It's crazy. I don't know if it's gonna, if the trend's gonna, it looks like the
If you
trend
look
is
at it,
continuing.
So, right, year over year, I mean, yeah, since 2013, that's just under 500 children
Yeah.
reduction for the town of Oxford, right?
Yeah,
We're averaging like I said, we were talking before, about 50 to 60 a year.
yeah, that's primarily just from average family size going down.
Yeah, we're not having 8 children, and
Nope. We're not even
a lot
having
of,
4.
a lot of people aren't having children, don't, you know.
Not like my parents, 10 of us. Next one just shows the statement of assessments for, based on the governor's budget for all 10 of our towns. We highlight Oxford, so minimum contribution is just over $1.3 million. We're not assessing anything above the minimum. We show the foundation enrollment at 141 for, which equates to 11.74% of our total 1,200 students. That is utilized to calculate the transportation assessment. So you can see the total transportation assessment of $521,674. 11.74% of that is $61,246. We utilize the capital population to assess the debt service and capital improvement. Oxford has 1,829, which equates to 10.34% of the total 17,687. We use that percentage sign. The total debt service of $1.56 million equates to $161,500, and our capital improvement, that's the sewer betterment of $30,000, equates to $3,180 for a total assessment of $1,578,032 for Oxford.
So if I divide 141 into that number, I get 11,191.72. Is that the total cost for us to educate somebody at Bay Path, or is that, am I missing something here?
Oh, so you took the 1,578,000
Yeah,
and divided, yes, that is your per pupil cost for you, okay, independent of the state's
That's what I-
contribution. Yeah, that
So-
is your cost per pupil.
so we're looking at, put it in terms that, in Oxford, we just had this go $7,820.
Yep,
Our cost. And, but in fairness, there are other costs that evidently the state, even though our spend per pupil, they say, well, you can't count crossing guards, you can't count, we
right,
pay for them.
Yep.
You can't count bus monitors, you can't count bus transportation,
Yep.
you can't count this, you
Yep.
can't, there's a whole list of what you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
count.
same thing
So-
for us.
So we say tongue in cheek, our cost is $7,840, and we got a shortfall. Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention that you, in that net per student
Yeah.
spend, there's all these other things that the state says, no, that
Right.
doesn't count.
Yeah.
You pay for it, but it doesn't
Right, and
count.
all those three things that we're assessing you for separately are that category.
So-
We can't charge, we don't count, so to speak, the transportation cost, the capital cost, and the capital improvement cost, same thing. Doesn't count towards our net school spending, they're
When
totally
they start,
separate.
and that factors into what they want for the minimum. That's why they keep raising that, because they want that they want that classroom spent in the classroom. They don't want it spent on the
Right,
bus.
they instructional, they want
They want it
instructional.
instructional, not on the bus, not on the crossing guards. That's not, that's,
Yep, same thing here.
doesn't count. I hear you.
And that next slide just breaks it down, in a comparison again, against our current fiscal year, 2022. So minimum contribution is an increase of $61,478 over last year, or 4.76%. Transportation cost is an increase of $25,223, or a 70% increase. And debt service is a decrease of $1,480, or a negative 0.91%. And capital improvement is a decrease of $24. And total assessment is an overall increase of $85,196, or just over 5.7% increase.
I was looking at your revolving, your special revenue funds.
Yep,
Two things I noticed, not to skip ahead here, you listed a lot of monies that you got in grants. Where it is on this page, but it was somewhere around 10 million.
keep going. No, I don't think it's in there. Maybe- oh, yeah, it is.
Or was it, no, it was 2,000,004, it was 10 million, was 2,429,000. You listed it a grant summary.
Oh, grant
Okay,
summary,
yep,
that's
mhm.
different. So that's a different-
ERISA 3, Title 2,
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yep,
ARPA, Title 1. So you do have almost 2.5 million, well,
Yeah.
2,429,000 if I had it right. It was late, so I don't know if I
That's
did,
okay.
but.
That's it.
do you have any questions on any of it, or just taking a
No,
look at it?
I'm just you seem to be active in trying to secure grants based
Our
on what we
pers-
like.
our
absolutely.
our pupil
Personnel Services
Personnel
Director.
Services Director, we call her the SPED Director, but she's more than that, is a grant writing machine. She's phenomenal. And in addition, not just her, but also our vocational director and a couple of other people they've really, we've got some people that
Wherever we
are
can go
excellent at
after
doing this.
grants to offset the cost of, again, all the equipment, capital improvement costs. It adds up. The machinery that's in.
Sure,
advanced manufacturing.
welding equipment to teach them how to weld.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
And
not
for-
cheap.
Yeah, and the animal science program, because it was new, you've got to start from scratch. We've got nothing. So 250,000 was what they call capital skills, and that was to build that program. So that's, x-ray machines, it's exam tables, none of which we had, to start.
Ultrasound, so yeah, and we were able to start that through that funding.
Now, looking at your different, you got your revolving accounts.
Yep,
I just note, like you start out with shop revenue, you had 184,000 to start with, then you had receipts of 258, expenditures of 307, and you ended the year 21 at 135.
Yep.
Started this year at 135. It looks like you're building it back up. Your anticipation going into FY '23, it looks like you're going to have receipts of 161 and only expenditures of 97 roughly. So you'll be back up to 200 from where you started in FY '20 and FY '22, right? Am I reading that right?
You are.
Okay, so I go along through tuition revolving. That looks started at 136. You're going to end up at 185. Federal lunch program, you started at 232. You're going to end up at 140, and that's the one I was looking at. That's your food services.
That's correct.
That looks like there's going to be an erosion on that revolving account.
Yeah, that's gonna be in a state of flux over the next couple of years as they determine whether or not they are going to extend universal free meals like forever, or even for another year, or if they're like, yeah, nope, sorry, we're going back pre-pandemic. So now we're gonna have to adjust for participation, because chances are some students that are now getting school lunch
For
will
free.
no longer do so. And then how much, the state determines how much we have to charge for those people who do get it, who aren't eligible for free or reduced meals. They actually also determine what the rate for the reduced versus the free is. So that's gonna be in a state of flux as we readjust to the quote, new normal. So we'll have to see how that works out. At the end of the day, that can never long-term, in any given year it might for some reason, but it really shouldn't, should never be below zero.
Oh, God,
That is
no.
supposed to be, self-supporting.
Exactly.
So adjustments have to get made during the year if needed, so that never goes below zero.
That's why, when I noted that large erosion from 232 to 140, the evening class started out at 91,000, and you're projecting it at 76, so.
That's coming back.
Yes.
Well, I think with COVID, that's what
Right.
I would
Yeah,
imagine.
and
People
that
were
one's coming
fearful
back.
of being around other people instead of, that's an elective. I want to learn how to
Yeah,
bake
come
bread.
over-
and
come
I'll
over
I'll
now,
wait
it's
until next
back.
year
Yeah,
when.
during
Yeah.
COVID, we were only able to maintain the trade evening classes, so electrical, plumbing.
Sure, where there's a
So-
requirement.
so
There's an
now-
avocational requirement, as
Absolutely.
opposed to learning to play the guitar or take bread, or make bread or something, where I'll
They're
wait a
back.
year.
Right,
They're
they're
back.
back.
So
Come
if you
on
look
over, yeah,
at
come on
leaving
over,
the
they're
school
back.
tonight, it
Yes,
was-
they're back, it's full,
There was
it's
more
great.
cars going in as we were leaving,
yeah.
so,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
somebody was asking where guitar was that night, so it's funny you say that. They're all back, so.
Well, I
See
saw
that
that. I
go
said,
up.
well, geez, maybe I'll,
Yeah.
take up the guitar. I don't know. But transportation was another area. You right now, the receipts are zero. FY '21. We started with 425. We
Oh,
had
right. I would have to make an estimate on that, so that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's gotta be plugged in. So at the time that this was created, that was an unknown.
Okay. So zero.
Yeah, no, that's just because it was unknown at the time that this was done.
Because there is a charge, right? I mean, there is some.
There will be something going in there, yes.
Yeah.
Barring something highly unusual, like the state deciding to slash their reimbursement to us, which is, we're
No,
kinda hoping it's going the other
Yeah,
direction.
we do.
And I noticed
Yeah.
practical nursing, which is started at 317.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be at 406, so you've dramatically increased that. A lot of interest in nursing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, they're doing a great job with that, and enrollment on that is high. Sometimes we
Yep.
just see a slight decrease due to, retention, moving on to the next phase of it, but, yeah, we've got a good program, the director's doing a great job on that.
And I see, other than that, your stabilization, you're still at 357, so you do have some money there. I don't know if I know the town's just under 2 million. I mean, I'm hoping the state at least gives us the same amount of money. And I know we won't see the cherry seats until the fall meeting. They're supposed to have them for their fiscal year at July 1st. I can't remember when have they ever had a budget and we had our cherry sheets.
Right.
We're in fall meeting and we're still guessing
Well, yeah.
what we're all in that boat. But I'm hoping at worst case, we're level. And then I see your OPED fund, you
Yep.
started at 423, you're gonna end at 600,000, so you are making
Slight progress,
Site-
We are,
yeah.
we're getting there.
chipping away at it.
Well, the actuarial tables, I dispute, people like, I'm retired, they've got me living to be 110, and it's not gonna happen.
Are you sure?
You could
Really, I mean,
Right.
they figure the insurance, so, I won't be here, so, but that's how they figure
That
all
is
this.
how
So
they do it,
I look
yes.
at what they say your liability is, like they say the community, our town, 41 million. Okay, and retirees, well, there's only 238 plus spouses, so, but, if we start all departing, then that actuarial number is gonna be a lot less than 41 million, even though it's gonna be something, so.
Right.
But those are the only questions I had, the grants and the revolving funds, well, you answered the zero on the transportation, so. I just hope that, with fuel cost and heating, years ago, I'm dating myself, it used to be electric heat. I remember we heated, Bay Path was electric.
Or gas.
I know we are.
Yep.
And that
Actually,
was,
not, we're
was.
propane.
Propane.
We're not even
Propane,
natural
yeah.
gas, we're
Not
propane.
natural.
Propane,
Yeah,
right.
propane.
And you have that windmill up there generating.
Not generating
yeah,
too
no,
much, but yeah,
unfortunately.
right,
It
that's a
isn't
small
the-
one, that's more for educational purposes.
Really,
than
it doesn't do much?
Feeding back
No.
the grid, right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So I had a question about earlier in your presentation, you mentioned school choice into Bay Path, which somebody would choose to go into. Is that because you wouldn't have a curriculum that somebody was looking for, or?
So what happens is this, if a student is going to Tantascwa through grade 8, so they have become a school choice student at the Tantascwa school, and this is where we see, I think, virtually all of the ones.
They don't want to come back.
So
Make
they
friends.
don't, they want to go to the vocational program at Tantascwa. Because of the way the school choice regulations are written, even though that student lives in Southbridge, and again, that's where the majority of these students are from, not all, but the majority, they're allowed to go to Tantascwa instead of coming to Bay Path, because that's where they were in grade 8. But we are considered, because they're going into a vocational program, so this is only for the students going vocational at Tantascwa, not for the ones, going college prep route. We're financially responsible for them, so the state charges us a certain amount to give to Tantascwa for those students who are in their program, but who would otherwise
See in your program.
have been in our program.
But they make friends, so, all through 8th grade, they want to stay with their peers, so they don't want to change.
Yeah, so that's how we end up with it. And then there's one other one on there. I think if a student, how did we end up with the out-of-district? If they end up switching to an agricultural school, we owned them as of, their first day of 9th grade. We then pay to send them to the agricultural school. But that's only happened, we've only got one student, and I think that's over and done with.
Thanks.
Okay, great, well, thank you so much for your
Oh,
time.
thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
You're the last one here, so you had to sit through everybody's
worries.
presentations, apologize, but
No worries, that was great, thank you.
glad to hear you're
Thank you.
open for business, though.
We are,
We are.
maybe we'll see you up there.
Yeah,
I owe you
come on
will.
down for lunch.
Well,
And if you want to check the menu first, you can go online, look at the menu, and decide if there's something that sounds good, and everything.
there's a
they
lot
make-
that sounds good, that
Everything,
menu is
oh, I
great.
know, everything they make is awesome.
Yeah.
Just come down and check out the bakery.
Soup to sandwiches, it's all good.
Yeah,
It's not a lunch, it's really a dinner.
It is, I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
gonna say.
It's
the
not a
table is
lunch, it's
great
a
for
dinner. It's,
Right, they're big enough for dinners, right?
yeah, very good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
All right, I stuck in everybody's packet from FY '21 through FY '23, the changes both for supplies and services, and on the flip side, salaries. So to just kind of give you an eye shot of where we are, where we've gone from 21, 22, 23, and the changes from 22 to 23 and the percents, a couple of percents that there's a decimal point off, but I should have changed my format on that cell, but it gives you the dollars amount, so it's just one quick piece of paper. And the other thing I put in your packet, we talked about, is what Justin had given me.
Yeah, I
I've been
saw
in
that.
conversation
Yeah.
with him on what our true costs are, and as you read there's a lot of indirect costs that, you know, we're at $7,820 something dollars, but that tongue in cheek because they don't let us count the bus, they don't let us count the crossing guards or the bus monitors, and there's a whole list of stuff. As he said, it was very, very involved and very complicated, so I just wanted everybody to understand what the cost is and what we're up against when we look at our levy. And we look at what we're trying to fund other departments within the town. And then the states, as you can see, it requires a minimum spend, and we're at minimum. And they still want, every year they ratchet it up, and so that just becomes tighter and tighter. So we're, you know, new growth, getting businesses here, some of the other receipts that we're trying to generate, whether it's another marijuana facility or whatever on 20 and 56. These are all things the community needs to understand and look to, because the state's on us, and our houses aren't going to overnight be a $3 million house or an estate. You know, we're not Brookline.
Yep.
We're not Wellesley. We're not Natick. And they've got a one size fits all. And there's 351 communities, and one size doesn't fit all. That's why I worry about 40B. Coming in, because we're an affordable community. We don't need more subsidized housing. We need, if anything, we need subsidized senior housing. So that's, you know, because we have a waiting list over there for almost 3 years at Oxford Senior Housing. But, you know, so what that does, it exasperates 40B coming in, the need or the shortfall. So anyway, I wanted everybody to see the dialogue. They've been very, very transparent with us as far as answering our questions on a timely basis. So they're up against it as far as, but they're not doing anything that the state isn't requiring them to do. Everything's been mandated. Even though we're supposed to have some autonomy, we really don't. The state tells us pretty much what we're supposed to do, and we do it. All right. Any committee requests? If I will entertain any for subsequent new meeting going forward. If not, I'll ask Trish what we have on our next meeting. Who's coming before us, so we can start thinking for next week. You don't? Oh, I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm sorry if I did.
I don't have that folder, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, that being said, then I'm assuming we got fire, we have police.
Oh, that's who's next week.
Fire and police?
Fire, police, somebody else.
Library?
Town manager.
Town manager? I know we have library still.
So maybe the library too.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing. Yeah. All right. Fire and police for sure.
Yep.
All right. That being said,
That's next week?
that's next week.
Okay.
Yeah, fire and police, I would imagine, and
I'll
then.
get the agenda sent out by Friday.
Okay, great. So then we can start picking up material so we can prepare. I like to prepare before the meeting, you know, so I can ask my questions. All right. If that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 2 absent. Thank you. Meeting.